Starring Robert Ri'Chard in this BET Plus release, you get a man who decides to get revenge for the unfortunate death of his wife. And unfortunately, in the process of him getting his revenge, you don't really get the kind of complexities or character development you want in order for that revenge to actually mean something. To summarize the film, it's been about a year since Maurice's wife, Alexandra, died, and while he has been mourning, he's also been planning. And on the anniversary of his wife's death, he decides to invite his friends, confidants, and family over. And in this isolated area, he decides he's going to issue judgment on his guest. But one person who was invited, named Natasha, she seemingly will not go down without a fight. So getting to the review portion, the only highlight actually is the fight scene, and that's because Tasha, even though it takes a little while to get warmed up into her fight scenes, when it comes to her fighting a guy named Francis, when it comes to one of her final fights, while admittedly the fights lack that oomph or sound effects to really get you into what's happening and really put them over, at the same time, I feel like because of some of the music and filters that are used that kind of trigger memories of Kill Bill or even blaxploitation movies, you'll find Tasha's fight scenes to perhaps be the best and undisputable good part of this movie. So getting to the on-the-fence topics, the first one would have to be the torture that Maurice plans out, and it's because similar to how Tasha's fight scenes don't have that oomph or sound effects you need, the same could be said when it comes to the visuals of the torture. Now, I'll admit, when it comes to violence, between Saw, which is very basic, to some Japanese and German films, my tolerance has been built up a little bit. So for me, the torture feels tame and like something you can put on YouTube. But for others, maybe it might be a little bit more gruesome. But watching somebody get cut with a scalpel, someone else get kind of burnt to death, I guess it's fitting out the crime based off of how Maurice is kind of twisted, but it doesn't do much in terms of watching it happen. But the reason why it doesn't do much isn't just because of the violence involved, but also because there's no depth given to these people. You know that in some way or another they screwed over Maurice or else his wife, or when it comes to their investment firm, they stole money or whatever, but you don't really get to know the individuals to really say that there's some type of grade or some type of depth. You can get why they did it. It's pretty much everybody is built up based off of Maurice's narrative of them, and the actual person themselves are blank slate. I mean, there's one who's an influencer, so of course you see her with her phone out, taking pictures and all that extra stuff, but everybody else is a bit more calm, cool, and collected, and because of that, Maurice, who is definitely agitated and a bit more theatrical, he just eclipsed them all to the point where the actors can't really give you anything. And that causes a real issue it makes it so you don't really care about these people dying. You don't really even care about Alexandra dying, to be honest, because unfortunately, even though some of these people have like a real relationship with Alexandra, and Maurice and Alexandra was going through a separation, you don't get to see in flashbacks Alexandra having conversations with these people, talking about the issues with her husband or anything like that. She is in the beginning, and then after that, there's no flashbacks. Everything is just paper thin, and it's frustrating because they have all these different types of people from different walks of life, whether it's influencers, people who came up from nothing and hustled their way, people who seemingly are affluent, yet you get nothing. And even when it comes to Tasha, for the last topic, she in a way becomes an afterthought because what's the best way to put it? In some ways, you almost feel like she's kind of the Trojan horse because she's the one who kind of brings you into this really violent tale, but at the same time, she's seemingly was built to be the lead actress. And granted, she is presented as the person who's going to be the final girl and survive all this madness, but what are we supposed to latch on to? Her sob story of her being from Crenshaw, losing both of her parents? I feel like in too many films and shows, killing off the parents is supposed to be the instant sympathy thing, so that didn't work. Is it supposed to be the issue of her wanting to be an author who can't come up with a title for her book? Much less it's not even clear what she wants to write about. I mean, she says she wants to write a story, but we're told so little of a story besides her dad got her into martial arts, her mom died young when she was young, and pretty much just like the people Maurice gets revenge on, Tasha's story is very thin to the point that yes, you'll appreciate her when she's kicking ass and taking names, but if she was to die, it wouldn't feel like a major loss. You would just question, so is Maurice going to get away with this now? But overall, when it comes to RSVP, while it has a few fight scenes which could drum up some interest, unfortunately due to it being heavily reliant on a madman's narrative and avoiding developing any of its characters or its story, even when it comes to the female lead, it just lacks the type of depth that most I think would need to find this compelling and not just be some background noise.